Hello guys, welcome to the second lecture of Cursor for Beginners course, and in this video we'll actually install Cursor and explore the UI that we get or the interface that we get after installing the Cursor. Okay, so let's go. So basically in this video we'll talk about Cursor running on our system. We'll explore its interface, the different settings that it offers, and we'll also talk about some basics of Cursor. So let's move. So you can go and click on this link to install the Cursor, and very importantly, Cursor works on all the operating systems, Mac OS, Windows or Linux, and it's very lightweight, right? You don't need any extra setup to get the Cursor up and running, and basically you can just install the Cursor, launch the Cursor and start building the projects using the different chat modes that we've talked about. Okay, so what I'm going to do, click on this link and let's go. And yes, I'll download it. And what I can do, and since I'm using an operating Mac OS operating system, so I'll download for Mac OS, and depending upon what your operating system is, whether Windows or Linux or Mac OS, you can download it for that one. And I'm using the version 1.6, which is the latest stable version. So let me do this. So let's download, and once the download is complete, we'll open the Cursor and see what are the different settings that we have to explore. Okay, so let it download and let's go back to our notes, and in the next part we'll actually launch Cursor and talk about these different settings that it offers. Okay, I'm using a free plan for as of now, but in the later videos when I will be building some complex projects using Cursor, I'll talk about the benefits of free plan or the pro plan or the different plans that Cursor offers. Okay, so looks like my Cursor is installed. So what I'm going to do is go to my downloads, and let's go to downloads. And this is the file that has been downloaded for me, and I'm just going to put this Cursor in my applications folder and let it go there. And once that is there, I can launch Cursor. The size is pretty decent, around half GB or so. So what I can do, I can just open my Spotlight search and look for Cursor. Okay, so once I open the Cursor, let's see what is the interface that we get at the first launch of a Cursor. And I'll say yes, open, I trust it. Right, so this is the interface I got, right? And if I just close this, let me just close this and let me open Cursor again. Okay, so this is the first interface that we got. Let's talk about like what different things are here. So basically it's talking about like my plan is free here, and I can open a project, or if you have a GitHub URL, you can click on clone repo and paste that GitHub URL. We are not going to do this in this playlist at least. Then you can also connect via SSH. So if some repository is located on a remote server, you can add your SSH locally. Basically, adding SSH locally means the credentials that you need to connect to SSH server, right? So you can do that also. We are going to do the open project, and before that also, let's just quickly see, we have different settings here. But what we're going to do, we're going to open a project, and what I usually do is when opening a project, and in any folder, let's say in my desktop, I just create a new folder, right? So if I create, let's say, hello world website, right? So I just create a new folder, and then what I do, I open it inside the Cursor. And what happens here is, right, so this is the interface that is open now, but what happens here is the directory that we have opened via this method, Cursor now knows this, all the project is going to reside inside this folder. So do follow this thing, always create a new folder whenever you're opening a project inside Cursor, and then open that folder. Okay, now let's talk about the different settings that we have inside this. Once we open a folder, it looks very similar to how VS Code is there as well. So we have a top panel. This is basically your global file kind of a things, and file commands and all those things. On the left panel, we have the file explorer. You can also do search across the different files and folders. There's this version control system, right? So basically, if you have a folder and you are doing some changes, you can do all the version control system from here only. Then this is very interesting, the agent part. So basically, if I click on here, this will open this right side panel of AI that is built inside the Cursor, right? So let's click on this, and actually you can click on here also. On this computer it says 1. So if I click here, then it opens this AI panel. Okay, then we have the extensions here, and we have more run and debug, which is basically you can run an application and start debugging around this, right? So this is about the left panel. The important thing is this file explorer. Basically, this is where anything you ask cursor to build, basically all the files will be created here, and you can see it here. Okay, now let's talk about the right panel, and you can toggle this left panel using this button. So if you want more space in where you are coding, and you can just click on this and it will toggle the primary sidebar. It's called the primary sidebar. Okay, and you can click this one to get the bottom panel up. This is for your terminal output and errors and problems and all those things. So it's kind of an integrated terminal inside a cursor where you can do all those stuff. And let's say if you're running an application here, if you find some error while running the application, you can just copy this error and pass that to this new chat window. This is basically your AI panel, right? This AI panel is basically, you can also rename this. So for example, let's say the first thing that we do while opening any new project is like set up an application, right? So we can do this as well. And then this is basically the agent part, right? So you can go here. This is the agent part and the ask mode. They're the different chat modes, right? This is the agent mode and the ask mode. And if you click on the agent mode, is basically say, plan, search, or build anything, right? And the ask mode is basically ask cursor questions based on your code base, right? So not going to do anything here, but this is the AI panel, which we'll be using a lot to kind of passing plain English comments to cursor to build the application for us. Okay. Another important thing that we have to see here is basically this settings part. So if I click on it, and this is the settings that is open for us. I'll toggle the bottom panel as well. I'll toggle the left panel as well. So we can just look at the settings panel, right? So there are some general settings which you can see here. And if you are using cursor a lot, so you can upgrade to pro version as well by clicking on upgrade here. We're not going to do that. So editor settings, keyboard shortcuts, all these settings are very similar to how VS Code has, right? So this is there, and then this privacy mode is basically what I was telling you, like your data will not be trained on or used to improve the product. They will not store our code, right? How that works behind the scene, like for my code base, if they're not storing my code and all, then how they're predicting the next response or how they are able to build the next set of features. This is something we'll talk about later. It's based on how code indexing works in Cursor. It's an advanced concept, so maybe not talk about it in this course, but in the next course where we'll talk about the advanced Cursor course, right? And then there are some notifications and all those things, and I have already logged in here, so let me just quickly log out. Right, so what I can show you is go up and you can click on this signing. When you have initially installed, it must have shown you this one, that signing to get started with Cursor as feature. So if I do signing, and you can do yes login, right? And I can just open the Cursor again and it will see that yes, this email is currently logged in, right? So basically what it means is key, now this is the account that is logged in here, and Cursor now knows that, hey, this is the account that is being used for building projects. So Cursor has like this email, what all projects are there, and with the code indexing part, it is able to build projects much faster for you, right? And behind the scenes, obviously it uses different LLMs. We'll talk about that, right? So this is about the chat interface. So about chat interface, you have multiple settings here, not gonna go there. And tab also. Let's talk about the models part, right? So models part, basically these are the different kind of LLMs that I was talking about that Cursor uses behind the scenes with your code indexed, right? Code index basically has different metadata and embeds, and with the code indexes and this LLMs, so basically it is able to predict for you like what set of changes need to be made for your next feature, or what set of changes need to be needed for your bug fix and all those things, right? So these are different models you can use. And another interesting thing is this API key. Again, we are not going to do this API keys part in this course because this is a beginner course. We are just going to talk with Cursor in plain English and try to build some projects out there. Right. So if you have some OpenAI API key, so you can use that, and what Cursor will do, basically your request will be optimized a lot, and it will using your API key for the LLM as well. And then what will happen is you will be using a lot of less request, and that API key will be used behind the scenes, right? So that is something you can do. And let's talk about also you can do MCP configurations here. Not going to do this in this course, but yeah, definitely in the advanced course we'll do MCP as well. Okay, so this is all I had to say here, and in the next video, from the next videos onwards, we'll actually start building some things using Cursor. Okay, so this was about the interface of the Cursor. We have already installed Cursor, and we have talked about like how we can open a project. Whenever you're opening a project, create a empty folder somewhere in your machine and just open that folder, and then you can start building things inside that folder. Okay, so that's it for this video. I'll see you very soon. Bye.